They're all saving one, or most of the Hampshire fielders are saving one. Somerset need one run. It's Edwards to Hildreth. He's there and bowls Hildreth, and he gets the run away through the onside, and Somerset have won. They've won the Royal London One Day Cup.
Hello there, you're listening to Always Look on the Bright Side of Life. This is the Somerset Cricket Podcast. My name's Ian Shepherd, and joining me this morning I've got Steve Tancock, El Presidente, Peter Wanless, and the voice of cricket on BBC Radio Somerset, Anthony Gibson. Right, tell you that game finished? Thursday. Was it ever in doubt, or were you like me, kind of hiding behind the sofa and thinking, God, we didn't need to win, why didn't we just make the game safe when Sibley and Davis were clattering along at... it seemed to be about a run a ball, looking in complete control of that game, and all's well that ends well. Thankfully, we did get away from Edgbaston with a draw. I was kind of sat there thinking to myself, Ian, you've watched loads of county championship run chases. You know that 360 is really difficult to get. All it takes, you've only got to take 5 wickets before they shut up shop. I mean, we say it was never in doubt, but was it ever in doubt, Pete? I mean, how closely were you keeping up with things? And was your heart in your mouth and for most of Thursday?
Well, for me, this game was the kind of classic illustration of how disappointing it is to have a fixture list that is in the working week, because I saw very little of this game, I'm afraid. I was following it through the notifications on my phone, which is the kind of equivalent of 90s, 80s watching on the CFAX, isn't it? So you sort of trying to concentrate on your work, but speculating on what it might mean when there are lots of notifications or no notifications. So, there were times when it was actually raining and they were off the pitch, and I was thinking we were, doing quite well, not having lost any wickets. And then you look at the score, and we've hardly got anywhere in the first innings. So, yes, others will be better placed than me to comment on how it was. I was nervous all the way through, but not for any good reason other than that Somerset always seem to make it very difficult for us.
Well, that's the thing, is that is an unintended consequence of the schedule of county cricket. I suppose that should be included in the Strauss review. The loss of productivity amongst county cricket fans when all these games are on midweek. I mean, I didn't get much done on Thursday, Steve. I don't know about you, as too busy keeping up to date with what was going on at Edgbaston.
I didn't really pick it up until mid-afternoon because I was at a client's and in and out of meetings nearly all day, and I was like, so I don't think I got the perspective you guys got, because I was just like, yeah, this is fine. I've got a lot more years of watching county cricket than you, Ian, and a lot more years of watching Somerset, so it was pulling me both ways. I think I was slightly anxious around about the time. And listening to Gibbo on the way back, actually, Anthony, you got me more nervous than less nervous for some reason. But then once the wicket fell, I can't remember who it was, Rhodes, I think, it was like they just switched the switch off, didn't they? And, it's... You could have imagined... I think I'm now in such a place in my head that I just think, oh, my goodness, it's bad enough losing, but social media is going to be such a horrible place for me for the next 24 hours if they lose this game. But I think on the whole, I think if you try and stand back from this game and look at it in isolation, it's actually quite encouraging. From where we were on the first morning to the way we batted, and I'm going to say it because you guys know I'm going to say it, I am so pleased for George Bartlett. I could have run around and screamed and shouted when he got to that 100, because I saw his first Championship 100. I saw the one he got at Trent Bridge with Tom Abel, where they both got quite big hundreds a few years ago. And I do think he's just the guy we need to replace Hildy. And, hopefully this is the first he gets another one in the next couple of weeks, and he can kick on then over the winter. And maybe we're just starting to see the Lackland Stevens effect starting to kick in now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the hard work really was done on that third day, wasn't it, Gibbo, when the pitch seemed to, as you put it very eloquently, died and went to heaven, and we lost 2 wickets on that third day. Everybody seemed to bat with a lot of concentration, a lot of focus. They all got runs. I mean, apart from sort of Imam and the night watchman Casey Aldridge, Lammonby 40, Abel 87, Bartlett that 100. Goldsworthy got his head down for 44 and a little cameo of 22 from James Rue. But it was just incredible the way that pitch just changed on that second evening, and as you say, died and went to heaven on the third day.
Yeah, it got slower and lower as the game went on. It was a good example of the sort of pitch that we don't want to have if we're going to make the case for 4-day county cricket, because it made for a very, very stodgy game. And Somerset batted on the third day with great application and determination, all of them, especially after losing a couple of early wickets the night before. I mean, losing Imam without scoring, it was a real blow. And I think, I was certainly worried that the pitch would do more on the third day than it had on the second. In fact, it was the other way around. But everybody seemed to misread the pitch, including Somerset on the last day when they, declared, I thought, half an hour earlier than ideally they should have done. I agree with you, Sheps. They should have made the game safe. As it was, they didn't make it safe because they bowled so badly in the hour or so running up to lunch and allowed Warwickshire to get off to a flying start. Warwickshire played it really well. Sibley and Davis, that was a very dangerous partnership. And Will Rhodes and Sam Hain looked as if they were going to win the game. I mean, I was genuinely worried. And if it wasn't for Will Rhodes playing a completely unnecessary pull shot when Jack Brooks was brought back and getting himself bowled, when all they needed to do was knock it around at 5 runs and over, which county cricketers can do in their sleep these days. And then Brooksy got a slightly fortunate LBW decision against Burgess the very next ball, and that was it, and relief and joy all round. But it was a mixed sort of performance from Somerset. For once it was the batting that really stood up, and the bowling that looked worryingly toothless. I thought, particularly in that Warwickshire second innings, poor old Josh Davey, he was all over the shop. And they will insist on bowling round the wicket to left-handers. I don't know whether this is Steve Kirby's influence or whatever, but they don't get it right. They're angling it down towards the leg stump, and left-handers can just milk it away through the onside time and time again. And it's, I don't know. It was. We do miss Craig Overton. That's that's the bottom line. We need him back really badly, because without him, we don't have the firepower to take 20 wickets on a not a very good pitch, on a slow low pitch. So I just hope to goodness he's going to be back for Northants on Tuesday, and failing that, back for Kent on Monday week, because without him, we've got problems with that attack.
Well,
I thought Lewis Gregory, actually, Lewis Gregory bowled better than I've seen him all season in that game, and he looked sort of, despite the fact he was carrying this tendon injury, he was really running in and bowling well, and he was the pick of the bunch.
Yeah, Craig Overton, judging by a tweet he put out a couple of days ago, is moving heaven and earth to get fit for Northants on Tuesday. And you're absolutely right, we do need him, because I think that your description of the attack as toothless was a little bit exaggerated, Gibbo, but I do take your point. I mean, how do we think Sajid Khan went? Because I didn't think he bowled particularly well.
He reminds me of Don Bess.
He's very good analogy.
He's got the right attitude. He's in at the batsman, trying to get them out. He's a similar batsman to Don Bess as well. He likes to go for his shots. The trouble is, he's not metronomic like Jack Leach. So he's he bowls the odd 4-ball here and there, and he doesn't turn it very much. It'd be interesting to see him on a pitch which takes a bit of spin, if he gets to operate on such a pitch, which I rather doubt. But without that, he's not accurate enough to close up one end, and he doesn't spin it enough to take wickets. He's a great character, and I love watching him.
Yeah, it was a great run out as well, running out Yadav in that second innings.
Yeah. not sure he's added very much to the potency of our bowling attack.
Well, he took one wicket in the match, and that was one wicket in the match, and that was a slightly fortuitous LBW of Rob Yates, which
was going down
maybe just sliding down. But it certainly presents a selection dilemma for Northants on Tuesday. One thing I thought I picked up about George Bartlett is your interview with him on the Wednesday evening. I don't know if you picked it up while you were chatting to him, Gibber, but watching it back on the socials, fella can't keep still. He's got ants in it. He's fidgeting. He's crossing his arms. He's moving all over. I just wonder if that's, they say you bat, how you bat kind of reflects your character, and I just wonder if he's sort of a naturally fidgety character, and it's more of a sense that he needs to kind of just keep himself still. I mean, one thing that I thought did kind of almost play into his hands a little bit is when they brought the keeper up to the stumps to stop him wandering around. I thought maybe that might just give him a little bit of focus and get him to keep a little bit more still and not have this exaggerated trigger movement and sort of keep wandering down the pitch. But yeah, it's the best George has batted for a long time.
He did. He was keeping still. I think he was making a conscious effort actually to be still when ball made contact with bat. It's a point I made on commentary. It's interesting that I didn't notice it. I mean, he speaks very, very well when he's being interviewed, and it was very nice to have the opportunity to interview him for the first time this season.
Have a little look. It's on all the Somerset Twitter and the socials. But he's kind of fidgety. He's a bit all over the place. I just wonder if it's a bit of a mental thing rather than.
He's very confident doing it. He's a confident speaker. Nice, very nice lad. I agree with Steve. I was really, really pleased for him.
What about Imam?
Sorry,
Steve,
I was just going to say,
you crack on.
Ian, my sort of mental image of Somerset over the next 5 years needs George Bartlett making runs at number 4 if we're going to be successful. Mm-hmm. We've got priorities at the top of the order still, I think, which we can talk about another time. But if we could just say that we've got Abel, Bartlett, Goldsworthy at 3, 4, 5, and they're our engine room for the next 5 years. Obviously we might have Tom Abel going off to skipper England in a year or two's time, hopefully. But if you've got that, to me, that would be. They're 3 characters that, over the course of a season, in the good old days, Anthony, you'd be putting down for 1,000 runs a season, sort of players, if you know what I mean. And I think. I think we were on a Charlie Taylor show or BBC Somerset at the start of last season, Anthony, or whenever it was a couple of seasons ago, and I damned George Bartlett by picking him as my leading run scorer, and he has hardly scored a run since then. So sorry, George and family, if you're listening, but I think he's looked good in the last few innings and then got out when he's got in. And this time, when he got to 30, 40, I was like, oh, George, please don't do it again. And thankfully he didn't, and...
I'd give a shout for Lammonby in that context as well, because I think the upper limit of what he might achieve could be extraordinary, and he was almost kind of penalised for being so good so quickly, put in at the top of the order, and people often say, well, he doesn't look like an opener and all of that, and I think at some point we are going to need to decide together if we want him there or have him as one of those kind of engine rooms as you described, Steve.
Absolutely. I still think I'm still worried about if somebody said we could find 2, if we sign Jake Libby and we get one more opener for next season and Lammonby slots into the middle order.
30 minutes and 35 seconds into a podcast before you mentioned Jake Libby. So
he got big runs this week, Shep. He got big runs this week.
He got double 100, didn't
he? But, I agree with you, Pete, but I'm sort of think that the mindset at the moment is he's going to carry on opening.
Well, he batted very, very well on whenever it was, Wednesday.
Yeah.
He showed real application, and he can play a long defensive innings. I mean, I go back to the century he got against Worcester in 2020 when he was 150 balls over his first 50, and then he wore the bowlers out and reached his 100 off another 50 balls and looked, tremendously classy player. I think he ought to persevere at opening the innings. I think he just needs to find that right balance between defence and attack. He's got a good defensive game, but a bit like George Bartley, he'll bat steadily, and then he'll suddenly go for a reverse sweep, and get himself out. And rather like Tom Banton up at Chelmsford was another good example of that, where he did seem for once to find the right balance between defence and attack when he went after Simon Harmer and sort of changed the whole atmosphere of the game. But I thought Lammonby batted really, really well, and Tom Abel was excellent because Tom he was the one who broke the shackles. Tom Abel, because they were going on a run and a half.
Oh, Gibbo's frozen. Yeah, Tom Abel made 87. You back, Gibbo?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I just thought he batted really, really well, and he looked to be back to his best, and it was great for him to get the sort of September monkey off his back as well. Yeah, because a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, it's just like last September. Abel isn't going to get any runs, and we'll lose all 4 games." Well, he's exploded that possibility.
Well, it was looking that way, wasn't it? Yeah, I think Tom just needed to get in and bat for a quarter of an hour, 20 minutes, hit a few balls, and then he just find it, which is what he ended up doing. Yeah, it took a good ball to get rid of him from Danny Briggs that just missed his outside edge and clipped the off stump for the Aussie Nelson of 87. But I mean, just one slight negative with the batter was that shot that Imam played to get out. He played a very similar shot again in the second innings against Gloucester, and they were absolutely certain he'd smash the cover off it. And he looked pretty guilty while the umpire kept his finger down. But then he did it again that second innings and chased a white. Was it the second innings or the first innings?
Second
innings.
Yeah. Didn't get any runs in the first innings.
No, he got 5 and 0.
I think he got 5 and 0, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean it's not necessarily what you want from your overseas player, is it? When you've got that clear roadmap.
Not the return on investment, is it?
No,
we haven't. I was thinking about this earlier. We haven't had a great run of September signings, have we? No. Because we bought Azar back. We had a signing in 2019, which I can't even bring myself to mention the name, that didn't work out too well. And I think it segues into what Anthony was saying about. So, and you were saying, Shep, about selection for Tuesday. We either prepare a Hyderabad and pick the 2 spinners, or assuming Jack Leach is available, do we have to swallow our dressing room pride and go, sorry, mate, you're our overseas bowler, but we're not picking you for this game?
Well, we've been doing it to Marchant de Lange for the last 2 years, so I wouldn't imagine it's obviously a well-prepared speech if they do have to make it. Yeah, I take your point. I mean, you generally will only be playing 2 spinners if the conditions demand it. If the conditions don't demand it, you can't not play Jack Leach. So that leaves you with the only choice of to say to Sajid Khan, sorry. I mean,
and the other complication is you've got Craig Overton hopefully coming back from fitness, Lewis Gregory, who I think Lewis Gregory's body's a bit my left knee feels this morning. It feels like it's held together with a bit of sellotape and a couple of old rubber bands at the moment. And Josh Davey, who I still don't think from watching him is anywhere near 100%. So you sort of want to have not to rely on Tom Abel and Tom Lammonby to be your prime seamers in the second innings of the Northants game, which is you've got to really pick Casey or Jack Brooks, which means then, we're sort of running out of places in the team unless we can do, the famous pick 14 that we often do on this programme when we're picking our teams, then it's going to be quite tricky, isn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, and then we're also assuming that if Craig is fit, we hope he's going to be fit, but then we're kind of all banking on him being Craig Overton in form coming straight back as well. So, anything else on the Warwickshire game before we put that to bed? I mean, my only thoughts were that I think the Lackland-Stevens effect is what we've kind of called it, I suppose, over the last sort of few episodes. It's never going to be an instant fix, is it? We're all we signed a batting coach, right batting coach, you've been in there 2 weeks, show us what you got. It's not gonna manifest itself like that. I think the first time sort of noticed the improvement in the batting was up at Southport.
Yeah.
And then again at Essex, we batted for a long time, and then here as well, the guys showed a lot of application and made that game safe on the third day. So I think it's there. I think it's coming. I think we may be just a little bit too.
Didn't come on the first day though, did it?
Well, no, but then it didn't for Warwickshire either, I suppose, did it?
82 for 7. We could have been bowled out for 120, and that wouldn't have been so good.
It's kind of how the match went, wasn't it? After sort of 30 overs, the new ball was having less and less of an effect. It became easier to bat. I mean, you look at the Warwickshire first innings. What were they? 94 for 95 for 4. So yeah.
But a word mentioned in dispatches for Lewis Gregory in that context.
Yes,
he batted
of course.
really well in the first innings, and shepherded the tail really well, and he did change the course of the game, because without 130 odd runs that the last 3 wickets put on, we'd have been in a lot of trouble.
Yep, unbeaten half century for Sajid Khan. Did you get him in on his batting?
Well, he should certainly be batting higher up the order. He's a much better player than Casey Aldridge, with all due respect to Casey, who's too high at number 8. He should be down at 9 or 10.
Yeah, I think so.
He probably should have night watched on the Wednesday night as well. That did surprise me when Casey came out, because in my head I thought Sajid was going to be our night watchman. He's
an early night
got that sort of night watchman demeanour, hasn't he?
It was quite early as well, wasn't it? It was about 8 overs to go. 9
overs.
Yeah.
But I can understand that though, because just going back to my point about Tom Abel not getting off to any starts, I think not wanting Abes to start twice, I think, was probably a factor in that as well. Although he ended up doing it, and all's well that ends well. Right. Have we missed anything else from Warwickshire? I don't think we have.
Jack Brooks' golden arm again.
Yeah,
he seems
Brooks
to be becoming that. Doesn't he? Yeah, he does. Yeah. He does it in quite noticeable style as well, isn't it? He doesn't bowl like a spell where he picks up 1 for 10 and another spell where he's got 2 for 17. It's a couple of wickets in and over, all the drama, etc. Yeah.
I suppose a lot of people were saying, when Brooks got his contract extension signed earlier this year, so, I'll be signing Brooks, he's too old. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Exhibit A, Warwickshire at home, Exhibit B, Warwickshire away. He's a good
and Exhibit
bowler.
C, I'm sure, is what we don't see. It's the influence he's having on the younger bowlers.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's a really good influence on Casey Aldridge, Sonny Baker, Ned Leonard, and even Josh Davey and the likes of that. I reckon he's a really good guy to have in around the dressing room.
And of course, his former county Northants are visitors to Taunton this week, which I'm sure if he
he was
to play, that would be an interesting situation, wasn't it? But I've got up to 7 for my team for Northants, and I'm.
Do you say 7 or 17? Sorry.
I've got up to 7, which are the top 7, and
right.
then what do we do about the bowlers then? Because we're going to work on the assumption that Overton's fit and Leach is available.
So is Gregory's your 7, presumably?
Gregory is my same top 7
right.
as Warwickshire. And then how do we fit Leach and Overton?
Overton 8. I'd be inclined to include Brooks and Leach, because I think I'm just so worried about Josh Davies' fitness, and I know he bowls so much better with Craig in the side, but it's so hard, isn't it? Because we really want to be at the training session today, whenever they've had one, and see how everyone's rocking up. If Lewis Gregory's not really fit, do you put Casey Aldridge in for Lewis Gregory? But I think it comes down to Jack Brooks or Josh Davies himself.
With no consideration for Sajid Khan, then he's
no. Assuming Leachy plays, if you're going to pick, you've got make it binary. It's Leach or Khan, and it's Brooks or Davey in my view. Because I'd still want Casey Aldridge in the side.
Yep, I agree with that. I mean, he didn't have Casey didn't have a total stinker up at Warwickshire. What did he pick up? 2 for 30 in the first innings off 14 overs. and then 2 for 39 off 12 overs in the second innings. So, perfectly respectable performance for a young seam bowler.
Northants are a really decent batting side. They've got a lot of players who can make big scores once they get in. So I think the question is, we need wicket takers, essentially, and then that depends a bit on the pitch, doesn't it, as to which way you go.
I think they'll go safety first. I think it'll be a pretty flat pitch. I think they'll be content with a draw and plenty of bonus points, given that Kent are away at the Ageas Bowl.
In which case, a couple of spinners who can bowl a lot of overs, turn in different, one left arm, one right arm.
Okay. I think that's what I'd go for. I'd go for Overton, Sajid, Leach and Brooks, I think. But I certainly wouldn't leave out Lewis Gregory if he's fit, because his batting is so important to us. But and I agree with Steve. I think Josh Davey, I don't think he is fully fit. He was several times in that second innings. He was clutching his hamstring and his side and goodness knows what else. And I think he needs a break, even with Craig Overton. Hopefully, Craig Overton coming back into the side. But if Overton doesn't come back into the side, then I don't know. It's a close call. I think Casey Aldridge probably, rather than Josh Davey.
Anthony, I would never say this in the presence of anyone in the Somerset hierarchy, but my concern is I don't think we've necessarily been getting the pitches we wanted this season.
Has it been hierarchy? Hello, we've got like the top of the tree here.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I'm trying. It's called irony. It's called irony. I was hoping Pete would do his diplomatic thing and listen the other way for a minute. I do not think, though, that we've had a couple of times, certainly when sort of Anthony comes on at the start of the game and you listen and he says, this is that, and then after 10 or 12 overs, I'm thinking maybe it's not the pitch we wanted here, or certainly we've won the toss and batted and it's zipping all over the place, or vice versa, and it looks as flat as the old Jimmy Cook road of the 90s sort of thing. And that just slightly, we know what we're going to get at Canterbury. A dreadful. I mean, Canterbury pitches are dreadful at the best of the time. At the end of September, they're even worse. So I suspect, Anthony, you can check out after the second night in Canterbury next week. But yeah, I hope we do go for I just take the points at this stage and hope Kevin James's boys do us a favour down at Southampton.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Division 1 table, I think I'm going to do it from memory now. Somerset on 123, and then you've got Kent and Warwickshire both on 115, and then whatever you like, Gloucester. Doesn't matter. They are
7.
Totally out of it, yeah. They could be on minus points. It doesn't matter. Pains me to say it. Sorry, Anthony, I know they're your second favourite county. And inexplicably, not sure why.
I should imagine, Steve, it'll count as a successful season for Steve if Kent and Gloucester are the two relegated, aren't they?
Oh, happiness, Pete. Happiness, yeah. Yeah. I'd rather they were both bottom of Division 2, but I'll take bottom of Division 1. It's okay.
Oh, well, in 12 months' time, Steve, you could have your wish. You never know. Yeah, difficult. I mean, I suppose the thing about the spinners is you kind of want them on a real side or a bad or an absolute road. It's kind of almost never the twain shall meet. You don't want your two or three fast bowlers slogging it out for over after over, getting absolutely no response out of the pitch.
If you've got two test match bowlers in your squad, you surely ought to be using them.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And preparing a pitch that will offer them something. I mean, not too much, I suspect, but. If you look at the bowling attack, particularly without Craig Overton, those two, Sajid and Leach, have got to be our main weapon, our biggest asset.
Yeah, and it never really seems about at Taunton, no matter how much grass is on the pitch, as we saw Tom Abel get suckered into suckered into sticking Gloucester in for that game a couple of weeks ago with a hint of green on the pitch, similar for Lancashire. Last home game of last season. I'm going to be diplomatic and wait to see the pitch before I pick my team. But I've definitely got to have Overton, definitely got to have Leach. I'm probably with you about being a little bit hesitant about picking Davey, but if Brooks is fit, I go with Brooks as well.
I've got to confess, guys, I don't know an awful lot. I've seen much of Northants this year, but just looking at the scorecard again, Surrey. Please don't quote me back on this one. We're 17 for 3 on Tuesday morning, but their bowling attack isn't exactly terrifying, let's say. Sanderson, White, Williams, Luke Proctor. Yeah, Sanderson's a bit of a handful, I know, but and then Sales, who I think is the son of David Sales.
Yeah.
So, and Surrey got 421 against them and 100 overs. So, at Wantage Road. So it clearly wasn't the Wantage Road pitch that Anthony saw last time he was up there a couple of years ago.
That was a great game.
Isn't it bonkers though? You go into talk about the madness of the fixtures and that. Our last 2 games are our one-offs, aren't they? We haven't played Northants this season, unless I'm completely missed a game.
Yeah.
And we haven't played Kent this season.
Nope.
We're just...
Are you suggesting some sort of conspiracy theory, Steve?
No. I've done my Jake Libby shout. I'm not going to get the conspiracy theory out today.
We're up to 7,952, I think. If anybody's keeping count, I'm certainly not. Right, best of luck to Tom Abel and the boys then for Tuesday at the county ground, taking on Northants. I think a win and we should be safe. And a draw, well, we'll probably need to go down to Canterbury and get a draw or better against Kent. That game starting Tuesday, which is a quirk of the fixture list, not starting on... It wasn't ever planned to start on Monday this week, and I don't know what they'd have done if it had
Just because of the final yesterday.
Yeah,
I guess they had room
final.
for a reserve day. And
righty-ho. So, busy week of, I was going to say ins and outs, but just outs, really. First one, this was a rumour that was flying around that Ollie Sale was going to be off to Northants. That was confirmed by the club this week. He signed a 2-year deal up at Wantage Road, so I don't know if he's going to be at the ground this week and which dressing room he's going to be in, but officially joining up with them from November is Ollie Sale. Fella's had pretty rotten luck with injury, hadn't he? And it was sort of a couple of years ago he was being groomed to be the death bowler in T20s, and then he just had pretty much a season and a half out with injury. And then when he came back, didn't really pull up any trees in the Royal London One Day Cup, and sort of that was that really. Contract expired at the end of this year, and a bit like Eddie Byram last year in the Royal London One Day Cup, didn't really give the higher ups enough of a case to grant an extension.
no, I know Mike Unwin's mentioned to me in the week, because obviously he's a lot closer to second season cricket than any of us are, and he was quite effusive in, wants to say something about Ollie Sale, because he's obviously a really nice guy and a good character. And I think when Mike's been at the second team games, he's been, quite forthcoming and always comes up and says hello and thanks for coming, sort of thing. So it is a shame, but hopefully it's one of those where, we hoped Eddie Byron go to Glamorgan would be what he needs, and hopefully it's the same. Does he have to change his name to Sales to fit in at Northampton, though? Because it seems to be contractually obliged if you're going to be a success at Northampton. Ollie Sales. Do
you think that's why they signed him? They thought he was
you can
another one of David's kids.
You can ask Andrew Rad, Anthony. You can ask Andrew Rad tomorrow if he's going to call him Tuesday. He's going to call him Sales when he signs for them. Yeah, but it's one of those, isn't it? It's not one where you go, oh no, that's a real shame. Which the other departure is, although it's inevitable, it's quite hard to take, really, because he's given us so much fun and pleasure and everything you want in a Somerset cricketer is Max Waller, really, in my mind. So that's a real sad one.
Yeah, that was announced yesterday. Max, via an open letter, has announced his retirement. Again, with just like with Trez and with Hildy, it's a shame that a player who brought so much to Somerset's T20 cricket just didn't get a champagne farewell.
Well, he's going to have a testimonial.
He is having a testimonial.
So, with the clubs, tried with Max to find a way of overcoming that, because, as you say, he's a very very special cricketer. I mean,
Yeah.
long-standing, loyal, and in a sort of modern day way, in a sense, isn't he? Because if you look at the number of overs he's bowled for the county, it's not that many, because he can only bowl 4 at a time. But they've been crucial in so many really important games through a period of sustained high performance. So yeah, I think he deserves that special recognition, and it's been lovely to see all the kind of plaudits to him on the announcement.
Yeah, just a shame he just kind of slipped away from that T20 team, didn't he, really? He was, in the middle of last season, he just kind of fell away a little bit, and then hasn't played a game this year apart from...
he got an injury in a pre-T20 season game, didn't he? And that sort of meant he didn't make the starting 11, and I think he was always going to play catch-up from there.
Yeah, he played in the Sri Lanka Development 11 game, played a couple of Royal London games. I think he played against Notts, didn't bowl, and then played up at Gloucester and only bowled a few overs up there. So would have been nice to see him go out at Edgbaston a few weeks ago, lifting the T20 Blast Trophy, but unfortunately not to be. But yeah, testimonial next year for Max. Andy Cleaver's popped in a question saying, "What's your favourite Max Waller memory?"
Well, mine is, the catch that he took against Middlesex was obviously brilliant. But I remember one down at the Aegeus Bowl. I can't remember it might have been James Vince, and he hit I can't remember who the bowler was, but he hit it down the ground. Max was feeling at sort of mid-off, and he ran back towards the hotel with the ball coming over his left shoulder, dived full length, and caught this ball two-handed about a yard inside the boundary. I mean, it was just an absolutely amazing catch. The speed, the ground that he covered to get there, and the judgment that he showed with this ball, coming over his shoulder. It was an absolutely stunning catch. So that would be my memory of Max.
I think that a couple of years ago at Chelmsford, he bowled an absolute pie to Dan Lawrence, who just sort of lobbed it up in the air in a completely bad shot and was caught out. And Lawrence looked completely horrified. And Max and most of the Somerset fielders, I think, were just sort of laughing at this extraordinary situation. And that was not necessarily, a long way from being Max's best ball, but definitely a memorable moment.
I saw the question from Andy, and I thought that is a horrible question. I can't possibly answer it because he's one of those players I think my favourite Max Waller moment is any time he fielded for Somerset. And I know that's an opt-out, but it's a bit like saying to me, what's your favourite Trez innings for Somerset? They're just too many for me. And just somebody who, you look at the team sheet, you see he's on the team sheet, and he's going to be entertaining, it's going to be fun. You wish if you're not in a camera on him the whole time, and it's just he's one of those as well. He still seems so young to me. He's got that wonderful gift of not looking his age, and it just seems for that reason as well wrong. So I think it's a great by the club to give him a testimonial next year, and I hope he, it gets properly recognised by everyone because he deserves it.
Yeah, I'm sure there'll be plenty of stuff going on for Max's testimonial. I think for me, it's just the way that he just 9 times out of 10 he would bowl that first over the innings in the power play. More often than not, he'd pick up a wicket and he would go for 6 or 7 runs. And just his ability to do that, because he was always flashed up on the screen, Max Waller, leg spin, but he very rarely bowled a big turning leggy. It was all sort of top spinners, googly sort of stuff out the front of the hand, just sort of mixing it up. And opposition sides knew it was coming. They knew more often than not that Waller would be bowling that first over at Taunton, and then more often than not he'd pick up a wicket and only go for 6 or 7. And doing that over a long period of time is a phenomenal effort. I can't believe England never thought to give him a go, give him a look. He's pretty hopeless with a bat at sort of domestic T20 level, but a 2-dimensional cricketer, as we said, he's an incredible fielder. And it's baffling, absolutely baffling to me. I mean, we know what can go wrong we know what can happen if you get leg spin wrong at Taunton. Matey boy for Derbyshire the other week going for 80 odd in his 4 overs at the hands of Riley Russo. I think Max put out a tweet or comment or something. It's not as easy as it looks bowling leg spin at Taunton, is it? But that just kind of puts it into context, doesn't it? What he's done at, the club love to say it's the highest scoring T20 ground in the world on all their social posts, and Max has chipped away there, going at. I've no idea what his actual economy rate is at Taunton, but I'm willing to bet it's probably substantially less than a lot of his compatriots. What's the word? Contemporaries. That's the word I'm looking for. So yeah,
peers,
contemporaries. Any advance on that? No, fair enough. Right. So all the best to the future for Max Waller. Another question in from Jacob Lund. Jacob, I'm not sure if your tongue is in your cheek. He said, should Somerset sign Darren Stevens? Not sure as what, Jacob, you're not said as a player, but Darren Stevens retiring from cricket at the end of the season at the age of, what is he now, about 104, 105, something like that?
47.
47. That's a hell of an effort from Steve. And Jacob's second part of the question, was Sajid worth the money so far? It's a bit of a...
Slightly loaded, that one, isn't it?
Slightly loaded.
I think he's taken one more wicket than Amir Verdi for us, hasn't he?
Yeah, that's true. How many did Verdi get in that game at Southport? One, was it?
I don't think he got any, but that
didn't get any. No.
What did he get?
Yeah.
Well, you
so there we are.
One at Edgbaston. Did he get 2 in the second innings against Gloucester?
I think so.
But we'll probably caveat that with he hasn't really had a proper turning pitch to work with. Edgbaston just went totally flat. Taunton seems totally flat these days, so it'd be interesting to see, and he may not get another go for us, so the jury's out. And as to whether he's worth the money, well, we don't know how much they're paying him, so if it was if he's on minimum wage, it probably would be, £8.90 an hour or whatever it is. It's great value, but
Max Waller's economy rate at Taunton is 7.63.
That's incredible.
Pretty good.
That is absolutely incredible. Over what's that?
That hotline to Eli's is well. That's impressive.
Yeah. So if you're thinking at 200 being par at Taunton, Max is going to 153 on that economy rate, which is absolutely incredible.
It's only slightly more than his career economy rate in T20 is 7.34. So
wow.
to only go for 7.6 at Taunton is
that's
incredible achievement.
And further bolsters my point of how the hell did he not even get a look in at England? Absolutely incredible. Jacob then goes on, who do we need to sign for next year? Well,
I refer the honourable gentleman to my earlier answer.
Mr. Libby. There's a name that's being mooted around, which top order bat, which we're
in
not
all
allowed
seriousness,
to say.
Although it's become a running joke.
You're freezing quite a lot, Steve.
Yeah, sorry, I don't know what's wrong this morning.
Yeah, there's there was a name that we're not allowed to say on the podcast, but
you've got wind of it, have you, Shep?
Well, I've got my ear to the ground. I've got my ear to the ground. That's rumoured. That he's coming.
But I think it's a bit more than rumoured. I think it's a done deal from what I can gather.
Oh, happy days!
I don't know why they haven't announced it.
I look forward to. Maybe it was just quite a busy week this week with Ollie Sale and Max Waller leaving. So who knows?
The club also, at the risk of creating a whole new kind of podcast at a late stage. The club, we've also put out our statement on the high performance review.
Hey, it's next on the agenda, Pete. It's next on the agenda. Don't worry about that. Don't worry yet. We're going to do, yeah, that was probably going to take us an hour. So strap yourself in, listeners. This is going to be a long one. Just pop through the last of the listeners' questions then. Andy Cleve, what sort of pitch do we need next week? Does this depend on Craig Overton's fitness? Would a high-scoring draw with plenty of bonus points suffice? Could Kent winning the One Day Cup impact their championship form in a positive way? Oh, blimey. What sort of pitch? Well, one that we can beat Northants on. Does this depend on Craig Overton's fitness? Maybe. Would a high-scoring draw plenty of bonus points suffice? I think we'd be happy with that. Could Kent winning the One Day Cup impact their championship form in a positive way? I'm not entirely sure how many of their championship side are regulars in that One Day Cup team. I don't think they lost many to the 100. Billings is the only one that jumps to the top of my head. Pete, you're
Zach Crawley.
Oh, Crawley, yeah.
Yeah, Denley.
Denley plays in the 50 over anyway.
I mean, the thing about Crawley is normally if your England opener's coming back to your championship team, you just as an opposition, you're like, oh no, they've got him back. Well, with Crawley, you're kind of thinking, oh, that's maybe not too bad. Rotten form he's been in all this year. Richard Freeman, looking ahead with TKC coming in and Bartlett, Rude, Goldsworthy and Banton all having hit championship hundreds recently, who's your top 6 for next season? I'll tell you what, Richard, we're going to park that one and I'm sure we'll be covering that over the winter once the ins and outs have all been confirmed. David Wyatt, who do we leave out for Craig if Gregory is fit? Does Sajid make way for Jack or do we play 2 spinners and only 3 seamers? The following bowlers, in my opinion, must play: Overton, Leach, Davey and Brooks. No way the ferret can be omitted. I think we've had a good chat about that one and hopefully already answered your question, David. And there was one that snuck in from Mark Long. Has Sajid Khan been a mistaken signing? Should we have gone for an overseas seamer instead?
Well, there aren't very
I think
many.
it would be a case of what was available at short notice.
Yeah,
exactly.
Not quite sure, Mark, to be honest. I think with Craig back, the seam bowlers, I mean, presumably we could have got Siraj. He was available, just didn't get in there quick enough. Yeah.
Difficult. It's really difficult, and I think we've wanted an off spinner for forever since Don Best left.
Yeah, we can't sit on every podcast going, we need to sign an off spinner, and then when we sign an off spinner, when for at least 2 games where we know Jack Leach isn't going to be available, moan when we sign an off spinner, a test match quality off spinner.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
happy with that.
Hindsight is 2020 vision.
Pete, you jumped the gun about the SEC board statement, which is now item 4 on the agenda.
I was worried you'd missed it.
Oh, I could never miss this. It's jam-packed week this week. So the club put out a statement this week in response to the ECB Men's High Performance Review. So I read it out in full or not? I'm probably going to waste more time umming and ahhing about whether I read it out in full or not. But there was a couple of good points here. Point 3 was, over a season, a diet of cricket across all formats which is satisfying for members, paying spectators and players is required. The current domestic playing programme, which resulted in only 4 one-day matches being played in Taunton over 43 days at the height of summer this year, with 17 Somerset players unavailable, is unacceptable to the club, its members and the South West cricketing public. Point 5. A path is needed to a sustainable funding model that will enable counties without a test match venue to thrive at the top table of English cricket and allow Somerset to continue to provide a strong talent pathway from the entire South West region through excellent county cricket and into England teams. So, you can read the whole statement. It's available on the club website. I mean, that first point I read out is absolutely spot on.
Yeah,
4 days cricket down at Taunton in the summer holidays is an absolute piss take. I mean, let's be totally frank about it.
I would love to be able to go back and work out how many days cricket I watched at Taunton in the summer holidays. And I know we always had the Western Festival in there as well. And I was lucky enough that Dad used to take the week off and we used to go up to the Western Festival as well. But my rose-tinted memories of Taunton in the summer was that pretty much every week I had a game at Taunton to go and watch. So, I sort of thought to myself, if I was that age now in Taunton growing up, would I be as mad about cricket and Somerset cricket as I am now? It's very hard to get kids engaged, which is what we're looking to do after all. Well, that was great. I really enjoyed that, Dad. When's the next game? Oh, we haven't got another game for the next 2 weeks' time. Oh, okay, a football season starting. Off you go, So spot on, absolutely spot on. It's just... I'm almost at the point I don't want to say anything anymore because I'm just so exasperated by it all.
Yeah, I mean, we've certainly discussed the effect of the 100 at length.
The questions that have been asked by a number of counties have been sufficient to postpone the high performance review discussion and decisions for a year. So in that sense, not job done, but job opened up for further consideration. So I guess the challenge is that even if things roll on for another 12 months, the summer which we've just experienced hasn't been great for the cricket
and we've got
playing public of the southwest. So, but our voice is being expressed. It's being influenced by what not just members are telling us, but supporters and potential supporters. Because I think Steve's right. We've got to think about the people who are going to be coming to watch cricket in the future. Their views are important too. So, on we go. I guess we're not good news. We're not faced with a kind of disastrous set of decisions or an ultimatum that has fractured the game completely. We've got new leadership at the ECB. There are going to be some important and challenging conversations, but with a bit more time to reflect and influence them, I think. So that's kind of how I think we see it at the moment.
I think the differentiation in point 5 as well about the non-test playing grounds was very subtle but needed to be said, and I think that's a very important marker that's been put down there. So whoever drafted that particular bit, fair play to them, because that really resonated with me.
Are you suggesting non-test match venue?
A lot of people have been saying that the implication of that, apart, that sustainable funding model, is Somerset and Gloucestershire bidding for 100 franchise. I didn't read it like that initially. No. Is there anything of that in it, Peter?
There are all sorts of options, aren't there, that can be considered in the context of laying out what our negotiating bottom lines or red lines are, if you like. So that sort of speculation is more in the heads of the people who are interpreting the statement. So it doesn't kind of rule it out, but it doesn't advocate for it. I think we're trying to create space.
What is the Somerset position on that, though?
There isn't a position on that specific. The position is the statements that have been laid out about we've got to have a lot more cricket in the West Country, and we've got to have a funding model that works for the club.
Are you going into Paxman mode here, Gibbo?
No.
Yeah, it is.
What is the club's position on? Did you threaten to overrule him? Did you threaten to overrule him?
It's a fine statement, but in all honesty, it begs more questions than it answers.
Which is the situation we're in. That's the stage of the discussion, isn't it? I think.
Yeah, it's, and I'm sure members are very happy to see the club, staking out its position, but it doesn't actually take us any nearer to finding a solution. I don't know if you've I'm sure all three of you have read this week's Cricketer, where all of this is Cricketer magazine, which has all been debated. And again, it's all questions and no answers. And personally, I cannot see the sort of outcome from this that's going to satisfy the vast majority of Somerset members in terms of what they want to see in their cricket fixture list for seasons going forward. I just don't see that Peter's absolutely right. It's all been put back, which is good. But put back to what? There doesn't seem to be any sort of breakthrough on the cards, because the bottom line is that with the 100 occupying the August, it's just squeezing everything else out, and something's got to give, and it won't be the 100 the way things are looking. It's all very depressing.
I think I think that the counterpoint to that, or the reflection I have on that at the moment, is that if we had wanted to force a very quick resolution to all this matter, it definitely would have been something utterly unacceptable because of some of those fundamental points that Ian has read out. So we've landed the fundamental points, but we haven't got a resolution outcome, but we've got time to work that through and I think increasingly clearly with one another about what are those non-negotiables or special kind of qualities that Somerset County Cricket Club stands for, and that are the reasons why so many of us regard what the club does on and off the pitch, and why we spend a Sunday morning chatting to one another about all of this, why it matters so much to so many people, and we can't let that go. So let's be clear with one another what those qualities are, and take them into what are, as you say, going to be really difficult negotiations, because there are powers at play here globally, actually, that are influences on the TV companies that fund so much of the game and the players that we want to watch.
Yeah, it's a, as you say, but it's a good first step. I mean, this is not going to be done and dusted in a week. I think we need to accept that, and that bit of give, a bit of take. I mean, one thing I don't want to see is a fudge of effectively playing the second 11 championship during the 100, because we've already got the second 11 championship and we can go and watch that anytime we want. Well, not anytime we want, but anytime it's on down at Taunton Vale. I think possibly promoting that second 11 championship to they're mooting about having the Bob Willis Trophy, this kind of regional first class competition in August. I'm not a fan of that, but Gibbo's hit the nail on the head. The 100 is this immovable feast that seems to be completely extra to all this negotiation. We've got and all this business. The 100 is fixed in its prime August slot and can't be moved, and we've got to try and rearrange the furniture to fit it with, and it's whichever way you do it, when you've got this fourth competition sat there, it's going to be nigh on impossible to please everybody. Unless they split the 100 and gave you had 2 weeks of blast, or 2-3 weeks of blast in the summer holidays, and then 2 or 3 weeks of the 100. I don't know. But then if you're splitting these competitions, you're not going to get the overseas players in, so you're almost back to square one, aren't you?
Exactly. That's the thing, isn't it? It's like going back to playing the blast every Friday night. The financial commitment of the clubs to have Riley Russo there all through the season is, compared to what it is, just doesn't make sense for him either, because he's going to miss other competitions he could be playing in. That's the difficulty, isn't it? It's. And also, I think that Anthony made a sort of tongue-in-cheek point on comms about it on Thursday. I think it might have been Wednesday, where he went, "I really don't want to be driving to Canterbury in the Oval on a Friday evening through the summer every week." And it's true, but it's also true with the rest of us. If for those of us who are a distance away and want to come down to games or whatever, we've got to do the same. And at least if there's, I've been very lucky over the last couple of years, obviously, but if there's a game on a Friday and a game on Sunday at Taunton, you've got a chance of making it a worthwhile trip for those of us who live away. And that's got to be a consideration as well. It's the same up here. If the Roses game was at Old Trafford and I did fancy going and seeing that, I certainly wouldn't want to be going into Manchester on a Friday evening compared with, say, a Tuesday evening or a Sunday afternoon or something. It's just common sense,
Good. Just going back to the 100.
Fans come last, don't they? We come absolutely last in all this. So,
just going back to the 100. There is an argument that if you can't beat it, the next best thing is to join it. What do we think about that?
The Western Dragons.
No, they'd be the West Country Wyverns, wouldn't they? Then Anthony's head would actually explode. We would see it happen at that point.
Well, actually, the Wyvern is the symbol for Wessex. But,
yes,
so you could
the
put the Wessex Wyverns, but we discussed this actually on commentary and Wessex doesn't include Gloucestershire, so that wouldn't work. No. But would we rather have 100 cricket being played at Taunton and Bristol during August than a county championship second 11 competition? I mean, that's that would be interesting to know what the public response to
I tell you what I'd like to see at Taunton much more than that while the 100 is going on. Put a test match at Taunton against one of the sort of minnows or associates, like an Afghanistan or an Ireland. That would sell out. It would give the cricket mad public in Taunton a real focus. Certainly wouldn't alleviate the damage that the 100 is doing in other places. But from a selfish Somerset fan perspective, I think that would be a hell of a compromise, and I think it's one that would go down really well with the Somerset faithful.
There are quite a few options that when you start looking at scheduling and different sorts of cricket and all the rest of it, that could be consistent with the principles that we've laid out. And it might be that a next stage in the conversation could be to lay some of these specific ones out. And so I'm not going to mention particular ones at the moment, because if I mention an option, people will think it's sort of mine. And I do have one or two that I prefer to others, but I think it will be important to take the temperature and get a sense of, well, what are some of the solutions that could be consistent more or less with these principles, and then we can have a kind of wider engaged discussion, as opposed to saying, is it this or is it that? Because I think one of the risks in this discussion has been that we are, and by we I mean kind of fans of the county game at the moment associated with Somerset, are too often characterised as being anti-change, and you're either for it or against it. And we're not against change, because we've said there are so many things wrong with the scheduling at the moment. We don't want things to roll as they are. We want something that works better for more people, especially the supporters now and of the future in the West Country. So let's think laterally about what some of those options might be and see where we get to.
Yeah. Can I just quickly say, and I am very anti-100, but I think I've reasoned this through because of this talk about a West Country franchise. And I think this is my problem with the 100. If the West Country franchise was genuinely Somerset with Bracey, Chris Dent and a couple of others,
you're going to piss off a lot of Gloucester fans saying that, Steve.
I know, but
not that many of them will be listening to this podcast, obviously, but
but seriously, if you picked and you had the chance of seeing Apes and Craig Overton and Lammonby and Banton and co at Taunton in August, I could get behind that, because I'd still feel, it'd be okay. I'd have to swallow my lifelong dislike of all things from Gloucestershire, but I could get behind it because I'd feel that was my team. I can't get behind a team where we've got Johnny Bairstow playing for us and Lewis Gregory captaining the opposition. That's my fundamental problem. The same way as Joe Root, when he's available, plays for Notts or something. It's just insane. And until they sort that out and give it a bit of regional identity, that to me is a large part of the problem. I think what will happen is the Welsh Fire will actually disappear, because I think that's a franchise doomed to failure, unfortunately for them. But
breaking news.
I don't think it's going to disappear.
Breaking news. I've just had a tweet. Craig Overton is bowling in the nets. Good. Simon Hancock has tweeted that. Andy Cleaver's tagged us in it. I can't quite see how. It's quite a way away, so I can't actually see if it is Craig or not.
Might be Jamie.
It might be. Oh, God, that'd be a turn up, wouldn't it? When's his contract?
I don't think
breaking news, Pete.
I don't think a West Country 100 franchise is on the cards. I think what would be on the cards would be a Wales in the West one, because of what you just said, Steve, about the problems with Welsh Fire, which isn't working out very well, and a much more overt part.
Oh, everyone's Wi-Fi is being dodgy this morning. But
That's been censored by the ECB police.
it's correction. Have you watched that? The capture? It's
Yes,
brilliant. Highly
correction.
recommend that. Gibbo's being corrected.
Western Storm is the model.
Yeah, I totally agree. It does seem balmy that.
Right.
But I suppose they want it to be city-based, don't they? Which is we don't quite get into that kind of trendy.
Well, Taunton City then sorted. Job done. Sorted.
There we go. It'll be first thing on King Charles's agenda next week. Build a cathedral in Taunton and make it a city. Right. Do we have any other business, chaps? Oh, one other thing that I forgot to mention earlier is the River Stand is officially being renamed the Hildreth Stand, or the James Hildreth Stand, at lunch on the first day of the Northants game next week. That'll be Tuesday. The club put out a statement saying members are requested to not sit in there for the morning session so they can get everything ready for the ceremony at lunchtime. I saw a few negative comments about that. Oh, we can't sit in our seats for a session. It's ridiculous. I'm like, it's Hildreth. The fella's an absolute legend. You can sit 10 yards away for a couple of hours just so the club can get everything ready for a legend for this opening ceremony. But hey,
I assume people will be able to find a spare seat.
Well, exactly. I'm sure. Well, there might be one or two free. What else we got? Oh, Western Storm's campaign in the Rachel Hayhoe Flint Trophy didn't necessarily come to an end, but their loss to Northern Diamonds last week meant that they're now unable to make the playoffs. They're playing who is it? They're playing today. Thunder up at Old Trafford. That's where Dan is at the moment on his Thunder up at Old Trafford this morning. That was already 7 minutes. 7 minutes in, Diamonds made 334 for 6. Holly Armitage made unbeaten 131. And then Storm were 230 all out in their in the 46 over. Danny Gibson making a very good 76 off 59 balls, supported by Sophia Smale, but unfortunately a little bit too late. The Storm openers couldn't really get it away during the power play to get that chase off to the start it needed to get off to. Right, fellas. Any more? Done a good stint this week.
Not from me.
An hour and 10,
nope,
more or less.
The only other thing I was just going to mention is that if people can make it down on Tuesday, as well as the Hildy stand being unveiled, there are a number of old players come in, which should be fun. So you might see some familiar, slightly more aging faces. You can do a bit of kind of I Spy the former Somerset cricketer in the margins of the game, and I was just totting up the number of first class runs and first class wickets that the people who might be coming have taken, and I made it sort of just over 51,000 first class runs could be present, and if you add Hildy's 18,000 to that, that's 70,000, isn't it? And nearly 3,000 first class wickets. So
is it 18,000 or is it 17,994?
No,
Have we sorted that out yet?
Yes,
18,
we have.
000.
It is 18,000.
Happy days. Yeah, might not be able to make Tuesday with Monday now being a bank holiday. I'm going to have a bit to catch up on our work, but hopefully be there on Wednesday and hopefully on Friday or whatever the last session of play is for county cricket at Taunton this season. Right, 2 more games to go. Are we going to stay up? Of course we are.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Well, people are going to hold us to this. I shouldn't have asked that question. Lovely to catch up as always, fellas. Hopefully I'll see you up there in the week. And
Look forward to it.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. Best of luck to Tom Abel and the boys this week against Northants. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with you next time.